Welcome, baseball family. No current events this week. Instead, we are just going to be talking about the best and worst of 2023 in baseball.
9 Plus Us presents the Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes. And now, Baseball Together.
Welcome, baseball family, to this week's episode of the Baseball Together podcast. I am Brad, and as per usual, I have our guy Brig on my left. How are you this fine day, Brig?
Sleepy, but very happy.
It's actually been raining here today.
Same.
A lot.
But that's astonishing for you, not for me.
Right, it is astonishing for me. And the fact that I was woken up by thunder at like 4:30, that's the best. I would rather be woken up by thunder than anything else in the world.
Wow.
It was outstanding.
We all just learned a lot about you, Brad.
You did. You're right. Okay. Anyway. So, well, anyway. Anyway.
All right.
It's a family-friendly show, Brig.
I agree.
Okay. So we're going to wrap up 2023 with the best and worst in baseball from the year. We started doing this a couple years ago. Actually, Brig, I did this, I think, the first time with Zip a couple years ago.
I think you did, yeah.
And I thought it was fun, so we stuck with it. So,
Yeah,
okay, we're going to go through and list some of the best things we saw, some of the worst things we saw. We do not have even lists, but I'm certain we're going to overlap somewhere because we always do.
We do, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Lead us off, Brig. Start us off with either one. Doesn't matter.
I'm going to give you one of my best.
Okay. That's a good way to go. Maybe we don't skew negative to begin with.
Yeah. One of the best things that happened in baseball for me was the number of cycles that were hit. And I think that this speaks to the shift ban and things getting away from just absolutely living and dying by the home run, by the long ball. I'm really excited to see it. So I just made a short list. I know I didn't get them all. But Luis Arraez hit the first cycle in Marlins history. Cedric Mullins hit for the cycle. JT Realmuto hit for the cycle. Gunnar Henderson kind of did. He got 2 doubles instead of a single. So we're going to give it to him. Jose Altuve hit for the cycle, and Elly De La Cruz cycled versus Atlanta in the first 2 weeks of his career in his rookie campaign. And it was the first for the Reds since 1989. I thought that there were a number of cycles this year. They were all very exciting, and some of them came in really big moments.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I remember watching that Elly De La Cruz one. I was watching that game, and I remember being like, there's a chance here.
Yeah. And also,
right?
Who is this kid? Yeah.
Well, at that point, I'd already been watching him for a little while at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just because I think that's the reason I was actually watching the game, because I wanted to see what he did against Atlanta.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember watching that game and just being even more amazed at the things he does.
Yep.
And I think he won me some money that night too. So there's that.
Yeah, he did. You bet on a rookie against the Braves in 2023. How dare you, Brad?
Hey, that's why I was getting plus money, Brig.
Yeah.
Chasing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's living on the edge right there.
You don't get to upgrade your computer by playing conservatively, Brig. So,
well, that's a fact.
Anyway, no, that's awesome. All the cycles. It was crazy how many cycles there were this year, because every year there's like 2 or 3,
maybe 3.
But they just kept coming this year, and I think you're right. I think it has a lot to do with the cycle, or not the cycle, the shift ban. Right?
Yeah.
Has everything to do with the cycle, but has a lot to do with the shift ban.
Correct. Yeah.
because yeah. Anyway, guys can get more hits up the middle and closer to the second base bag and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I love it. That's a good one.
All right, you go.
But I'm going to stick with the rules, because one of my bests is the pitch clock and the bigger bases. A few years ago, when we first started talking about the pitch clock, I was like adamantly against it. I was like, no, I don't like this. I don't like the advantage that it's going to give base runners, but we saw pitchers figure out a way to make it work toward their advantage, or to their advantage. And I think that's awesome. Leveling the playing field and a little bit more gamesmanship in different ways. And there's always going to be that element of the game, right, where guys are going to figure out ways to circumvent the rules to some degree without cheating.
Right.
Which is what we're okay with.
Yeah.
And it made for some really interesting plays on the base paths.
Agreed.
So that was really cool. It also helped the game move along. Like, you didn't have pitchers taking a minute between pitches and just wandering around the mound and fixing their hat 5 times and then stepping off, fixing their hat 5 times again and going through their entire routine again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you don't have Nomar Garciaparra anymore with his batting gloves.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I love thinking about Garciaparra's stupid batting gloves, man. It makes me laugh every time. I will probably be 85 and think about it and be like,
most likely.
yeah,
I'm sure you will.
yeah.
But so I thought that the pitch clock was great. It's interesting that just a little teaser for some current events, I guess, coming up in the news dumper. Maybe we've already talked about it. I don't know, because it's previously recorded. But they're talking about shortening it next year with runners on base, right? To 18 seconds instead of 20. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Could be great.
Yep. Push the pitchers a little bit more. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be great. The bigger bases, I think it definitely encouraged guys to run.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Acuna.
Invited, not encouraged.
Yes, invited. I think that is the word. I think you're
get
right.
after it. Yeah.
Acuna was just like, I have a couple extra inches. Let's do it.
That's all I
Right?
needed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we're going to continue to see guys take advantage of that and steal more and more bases as we go with these bigger bases, because that is one of the most exciting plays in baseball.
100%. And to your point, I didn't put this on my list, but a number of guys stole home this year, and that was exciting.
Yeah, I love stealing home.
I do too. I think it's so awesome.
So cool.
Ellie De La Cruz is one of them, if I remember right.
So old school.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Such an old school play. All right.
So do we want to stick with best, or do we want to jump back and forth? Well, I
don't want to necessarily end with worst. So let's just kind of jump back and forth as we go.
Okay. So I'm going to hit one of my worst. And Drew Smyly went 7 perfect innings. And then it got disrupted by a dribbler between like the mound, and it's on its way to third base. And it was like halfway up the base path. Then he gets basically jumped on by his catcher. And I feel angry.
What was that? Say that again.
Miscue. I said I'm still angry. It was a miscue.
Still angry
between the Smyly and the catcher, and so I mean they both really wanted to make the play. I got it, but for whatever reason, like, it was the dumbest way to give up a perfecto.
That is a dumb way to give up perfecto, but at the same time, I feel like if you're not going to communicate with your teammate, you don't deserve to make the play.
I agree.
You know, like they say, communication is the key to every successful relationship.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Well, I just think
that
was one of the worst moments of the season.
And I laughed, Brig. I laughed so hard when that happened, because anytime something like that happens, just because of the folly of baseball.
Yeah.
Like, I remember we were at a Bees game in Salt Lake one time, sitting down the left field line, and there was a high fly ball into foul territory down the first base line toward the bullpens out there, you know?
Yeah.
And I saw the second baseman and the right fielder coming at it. Like, I was watching the ball, and then I watched them. I was like, they're going to run into each other.
Yeah.
And they did. It wasn't like a hard, brutal collision, but they did run into each other, and the ball fell down. I was like, oh, man. Just watching it happen. I stopped watching the ball, and I watched those two dudes, and I was like, oh, man, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And since somebody got hurt, I felt okay with laughing at it. But anyway. All right.
Yeah, you're just a cold-hearted snake, aren't you, Brad?
A little, I guess so.
That's your black flag pick of the week, is you laughed when Drew Smyly gave up a perfecto on a miscommunication. And you're in your pirate sweater, too. That's fantastic.
I am. You're right. Brig, it cools down to 85 here, and I'm wearing a hoodie all day long.
Yeah, I know. I'll bet you are.
Any excuse to put on a hoodie. All right, one of my worst. Let's talk about the World Series for a minute.
Okay.
Because this World Series was boring. We talked about that.
Yeah.
5 games, 4 of them were just snoozers. I had a really hard time getting into. I feel like I would turn it on out of obligation, right?
Mm.
And I think one of the big things that made it boring was the fact that, like you talked about, teams not living and dying by the home run. The Rangers did,
Yeah.
and they managed to win a World Series
I
living and
know. I
dying
hate
with the
it.
home run. And I don't love that because it sets a bad precedent across the league that you can do that with a mediocre to bad bullpen, strung together pitching staff that's dealt with injuries for its
Strung out pitching staff.
well, I mean injuries with its two top dogs is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like they've kind of like pieced it together and been like, okay, well, we're gonna make it work with these guys. And granted, Evaldi and Montgomery were lights out.
And
Right?
Heaney had some
And Heaney,
excellent outings.
where did Andrew Heaney come from?
I don't know.
Like,
You know,
this
he
is not.
struck out like 1 billion guys at one point in the season, all in one game, right? It was
I
like
know.
9 or
And
10
you
in a
know what,
row.
though? I'm not giving enough credit to the Rangers pitching coach.
Yeah.
I should be.
Yeah.
Because that guy, every single time the Mariners play the Rangers, that guy, when there's a tough situation, there's a tough spot, every time he goes out to the mound, they get out of it.
Yeah.
Every single time, without fail. And it's gotten to the point where, like I said, anytime they get in a jam, I'm like, yeah, here we go. And then he comes out, I'm like, rally over. It's done. Whatever it is, the have to, I don't know what it is he's talking to him about
They
out
have
there.
to.
But whatever he says gets him out of it. And
It's
so
always the have to, Brad.
always the have to.
Yeah.
But anyway, the World Series was one of my worst this year because it was just not super engaging, not good for the general population of casual fans, right?
Yeah. Casual fan. Yeah. Everybody,
Yeah,
all the avid fans still watched it, I think.
yeah, it wasn't appealing to the casual fan. And
Right. That's
and
problematic.
I'm not saying that they need to like fix things, right?
No.
But they need to do something to hype it up to make it more appealing to the casual fan.
Agreed. I'm gonna stay on the bad wagon for a minute. Do you like that?
Okay.
Bad wagon. And I'm just gonna drop one in here. At one point in a game in Toronto, Aaron Judge came under a tremendous scrutiny because he was holding his bat up and then glanced without moving his head. His eyes traveled to the dugout, and it was not a good look. It just was not. And that's all anybody could talk about for way too long. And even in the moment, the Toronto broadcasters, because I was watching the game, basically accused him of cheating and through inference and implication. And I mean, I don't know. I can't really blame him. But I mean, you got the captain of the team. You're at an away game. It's a division game. And then he hits home runs in that game. I think he had 2 in that game. And I'm like, this is not a good look, guys. I don't know what was happening. I don't think he was cheating. I don't know. But the fact that that he left himself vulnerable and it came under speculation and now everybody's wondering, that stings. That's bad for baseball. I don't care who you are. I don't care what team you root for. It's bad for baseball. And that's the day he broke the maple leaf too. So it's just kind of rubbed salt in the wound for the people in Toronto.
It is
bad.
a bad look. Yeah. And this is the thing. So I remember that because he talked later about how he's like, there were guys in the dugout chirping.
Yeah.
And I get that. That's going to draw your attention,
For sure.
Because you don't want to hear that when you're at the plate. But for me, the bad part was the fact that the Toronto Blue Jays broadcasters were so salty about the Yankees and Aaron Judge that's where they went right off the bat.
Immediately. Yeah.
They're like, oh, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but then don't.
Right.
Then don't say it.
Yeah. The whole situation was bad.
You know what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, it was not a good situation. And it is a bad look for baseball, especially the Yankees captain being accused of cheating on the air during a game.
Right.
That's like the most prominent figure in the sport no matter what year it is, no matter where Ohtani is at in his career. The Yankees captain is one of the most prominent figures in baseball.
Yeah.
Always.
It's always going to be that way. For sure.
Yeah, and you can't do that. I'm sorry. I'm going to go on the other side of the track here, Brig. I'm going to give us a best.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with the postseason as well. the championship series were the best part of the postseason.
Oh, for sure.
So good. Both went 7 games. So much drama. They were great watches start to finish. I mean, granted, there
Yep.
were a couple blowouts, right? But that's going
Sure.
to happen. But then it was because the best thing about that was you're like, oh, shoot, they're toast. They're done. It's over, right?
Right.
But no, they weren't. The
Yeah.
Diamondbacks came back. The Rangers came back, right? Like,
Yep.
start to finish, it was such a battle for both teams. And I was really hoping that that was going to be a preview for a really exciting World Series.
Yeah.
You and I both picked the Diamondbacks, but that was
We
for
did.
me. That was more out of just because I wanted to skip work and go to a parade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I honestly didn't think they stood a chance against the Rangers. But I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
I didn't think it'd be that bad.
And honestly, I probably wouldn't have even had to skip work. I bet half of us would have just been like taking a work day and gone.
Yeah, I
There's
bet
so
you're
many
right.
people who are baseball fans in my office. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
the championship series though were outstanding. That was excellent baseball and a ton of fun. I want more of that all the time, especially since there were so many sweeps this year that it was like we needed it. We needed it so bad in the championship series.
I totally agree. That's a great call. Okay, so I'm gonna stay with positives here. One of my favorite moments from the entire season was the final at bat of the World Baseball Classic. I will never forget Shohei Ohtani against Mike Trout. It was everything it could possibly have been. It was almost scripted without being scripted. Like, Ohtani comes out of the bullpen, Trout's the next guy at the plate.
Mm-hmm.
It's just poetry. And then I'm going to be a little smug here when I said Trout's going to strike out. You just watch. And then
you did say that.
And so I feel a little bit smug. I think that it was great for baseball. It was, anyway, I can't say enough good things about it. I think that's one of the best moments in baseball this year.
That was one of the best moments in baseball. That was the thing that's funny is that the world will never, ever, ever let Mike Trout live that down.
No, never.
Ever. But also the fact that Shohei Ohtani, the way he attacked him was absolutely perfect. And it was like, I remember seeing somebody on still Twitter at the time said, Shohei Ohtani just laid out the blueprint for pitching to Mike Trout.
Yeah.
102 mile an hour fastballs and 95 mile an hour sliders off the plate. That's all it takes.
Off the plate. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because everybody can throw that.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that they're teammates and friends, and it's like, oh, man, it was just, it was romantic. You know, it just really was.
Yeah, it was. So I'm going to go with one of my best. It was just the World Baseball Classic altogether.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of fun. It was exciting. And I think part of the reason it was so fun is because we got to go to a few games, right? We got to experience it firsthand. That was amazing. I was actually, while I was putting this together, I was like, when do they announce the locations for the next World Baseball Classic? And we've got a while still. But it was such an up and down roller coaster. Like, that's in such a small period of time.
Yeah.
Because I remember being at that England game, or the game against Great Britain, and being like, this team doesn't look very good, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of had some fun with it and everything, and it wasn't a good time. But then the next night we went to we were sitting at a bar outside the stadium for the US-Mexico game.
Yeah.
And I was like beside myself, distraught.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I will never forget that was like one moment in my life where I was just like so angry about what was going on.
Yeah. It was.
You pulled out your phone and recorded it.
Yeah, I did. I totally did.
So there was that, and then we went to the Canada game, and that was just like over 2 outs into the game, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it was fun. It was exciting to watch this team come out and have some fight, and then have the run to the championship game against Japan. It was a great watch all around. It was a bunch of fun. I don't want to say I can't say there were the exciting moments like there were in the 2017 World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, it was a little slower than that. Yeah.
A little slower than that, but it was still really cool to see teams like Great Britain get in there.
Yeah,
for the first
Israel
time
and Italy
ever
and
in Czech Republic.
Yeah, in the Netherlands, and I mean, it
Yeah.
was really cool. Cuba, that was Little League Classic or the Little League World Series. Sorry, Cuba fielded a team.
No, Cuba was in it.
They were.
Yeah, Cuba was in it. Yeah, they played in. I
Oh
want to say they
yeah,
played
yeah.
in Chinese Taipei.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then so let's just mention this, that Cuba did field a Little League World Series team for the first time ever. That was
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
That is cool. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead with your next.
I'm going to jump back over to the worst, and I'm going to, speaking of World Baseball Classic being exciting, I have a little bit of a tie-in here. Javi Baez this season. Javi Baez in 2022 had a really down year. I mean, bad. But Javi Baez in 2023 was worse. And I don't understand what is wrong. It makes me so sad. Now, for those of you listening, you might not know, we celebrate Javi Baez Day every year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting to be a little bit hard to celebrate Javi Baez Day. What is August 15th? Every year we celebrate Javi Baez Day. We call it Dia del Mago. But it's getting really hard to justify.
It is.
But it's from the 2016 season.
It is, yeah. Have you seen the heat maps from his swings and misses this year?
No.
They're so bad because like there's some pitches that are like off the chart that like you can't even see where the pitch was, and he still swung at it. It's like, yeah.
It's hard to watch.
And granted, maybe that was like a hit and run, but the map doesn't show that.
Right. Right. This still goes against you on the data, and it's a bad look in person.
Yes, it is. It is a bad look.
Just so bad. Anyway.
Okay. I'm going to go with one of my worst.
Okay.
And this is the one that kind of straddles the line just because of who it is for me.
Okay.
But one of my worst is Jose Altuve's base running abilities. It's so weird to watch a big leaguer make the mistakes that guy makes on the base paths.
For real.
And I know, like, he's not, as far as I know, he's not known as a speed guy, right? Like, he doesn't steal a whole lot of bases, and probably those short legs makes it difficult to do that. But at the same time, though, like, one of the big things I feel like that led to the Astros' demise in the ALCS was his failure to touch second base on a fly ball to deep left. Like, you've got to know that you have to touch the base to get back. And granted, he was like a foot past, right? So it's easy to go cut the straight line that he did. But you have to know, I touched the base, I have to touch to get back.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
That if that had happened in July, we'd laugh about it. We don't care. But somebody who has had such clutch moments at the plate as he has over the last several years, 6-7 years.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to have the awareness on the base paths too, because you cannot always make up for it at the plate.
Correct.
Because that was a rally killer for the Astros.
Yeah, it really was.
But on the other hand, I could put that as like one of the best because it's kind of funny to see sometimes.
Yeah, it's true.
Again, I guess I shouldn't be laughing at people's failures, but
right. Well,
it's sports.
It is sports. We keep it light. Okay, I'm going to go back on the light-handed side. The light-handed side? What does that even mean? I'm going to go back on the light-hearted side.
There we go.
Was it not so much fun to watch Luis Arraez flirt with 400 all season? Or for most of the season?
For a lot of it, yeah.
That was so much fun, and we were all just like glued to the sports page and whatever, like it was just awesome. I wish Dita got it, but it was fantastic.
Yeah. And the thing that's crazy is, as close as he was or wasn't this year, I don't think he'll ever be that close again.
I agree.
That
a
lot of guys, when they flirt with it like that, it's like their career year and then they never get close again.
I agree.
Yeah. So.
That's a reality. It hurts my feelings, but it's a reality.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
Thanks for bringing us down. Taking one of my highs and making it a low.
Well, I feel like that helps with the magnitude of what he did. That's it's like true. A once in a career thing to get that close
Yeah.
And it's like a huge deal, even though he didn't get it. It's like, oh, he
That
was
was
so
a great
close. He's so
That was a
close.
great recovery, Brad. That was really good. That was like
That's
a
right.
gold-plated recovery right there.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go with one of my bests.
Okay.
Julio Rodriguez's 4-game stretch in August
Mm,
was unreal.
yeah.
It felt like there were times during that stretch where it was like my friend Jen and I would text each other like, he may never get out again. This is amazing.
Right? Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
it felt like. Like he had 17 hits over 4 games, 4 extra base hits, and 8 RBIs. And it was interesting because he suddenly just like popped into this groove.
Yeah.
I think it was against the Royals, and the Mariners broadcasters just kept saying the Mariners go as Julio goes, and if he
Mm,
keeps up a third of this the rest of the way, they'll be fine,
yeah, yeah,
right? And he cooled off, but he kept getting hits. I think he had like a 15-game hitting streak at one point during the season. I think that was
yeah.
part of it. Had a 27-game on base streak, which is awesome still.
Crazy. Yeah.
But then he really cooled off the beginning of September, and that's when things fell off for Seattle. So it's like truly the Mariners go as Julio goes, which is odd because he's one guy,
Yeah.
but there's something about the energy that he brings. And I was really hoping that that would carry over and like kind of wear off on the other guys because they say hitting is contagious,
Yep.
wear off on everybody else and get things going. But it just was not quite enough. Came up just short. But that
Yeah.
4-game stretch was unreal, and it was
It's
crazy
awesome.
to watch. Just crazy to watch.
That's awesome. Speaking of absolutely astounding accomplishments, Ohtani threw a complete game shutout. And then in the next game, the very next day, he homered twice.
Wasn't it later that day? I think it was a
Or
doubleheader.
was it later that day?
I think it was later that day. Yeah,
But was it a double
it's a doubleheader.
doubleheader? Yeah, yeah. But the
Yeah,
very next game, yeah, it was that day. You're right. Yeah, in the very
yeah.
next game, he steps off the mound and goes yard twice. I was like, holy crap, this guy. It's not even fair. It's just not.
It's like
Otherworldly.
it's like when you get that kid in high school who does like that exact same thing, like a tournament game, like summer ball or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I remember we went and played in this tournament in Portland one time in summer ball in high school, and our coach was like, he's like, this is a small field, like don't worry about crushing the ball. If you miss it, it'll go out.
Right.
Right. He's like, just put a good swing on it, it'll go out. And he's like, he mentioned so and so. He's like, last year he won a game by himself. He hit a solo home run and threw 7 shutout innings. Like, jeez.
The end.
And as you would imagine, he went on and played Division I baseball and won a College World Series. So,
Ooh,
yeah.
that's fantastic.
But yeah, that's basically Ohtani. It's like when you see those guys in high school are just freaks of nature and just way better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to go back to the worst side for a
Okay.
minute. The A's relocating.
Oh man,
I don't like
Okay.
it. I know it has to happen because things are just not working out in Oakland, have not worked out in Oakland for a very long time.
Yeah.
But I would love it if they could work out something, because I think David Sampson was talking about it this week about how they were trying to work out a deal where they could move to San Jose, but the Giants weren't letting it happen. It's like, I understand there's TV money and there's stuff like that, but just like, do your people a solid.
Right.
Do your community a solid and keep this team in the area.
Yeah.
And granted, the other thing with that is if the A's are gone, that means more Giants fans, it means more revenue for the Giants.
For sure.
Right?
Totally.
But at the same time though, you are a collective, you're a league, you're all trying to make money.
Yes.
And you can make money as a collective, right?
Totally agree.
Do them a solid and let them stay in the Bay Area. Don't force them out of town, because I think that's just so petty and childish.
Yeah.
And I hate that the A's are moving to Vegas, and because I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to go well.
Yeah. It's going to be, wow, it's going to be fun to watch. It might be heartbreaking, but it is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I just can't see it going well. So, and I know it's gone well for the Raiders so far, but
Yeah.
baseball is a completely different animal.
Yeah, it is. Okay, I'm going to go next. I'm going to piggyback on the worst.
Okay.
Oakland's reverse boycott game was fabulous, and they won 7 in a row during that time. But it's still one of the worst because nobody came to any of the other games until it was a crisis. And by then, it was too late. And the team, it was evidence that the team rallied when the fans rallied. And it was like, we need you, you need us, let's work together. But it never happened other than that stretch. And so it's like, dang, guys. That's what I think. That's why it's one of the worst, because I think there are lots of angles and there are lots of dynamics at play here with the A's moving to Vegas. And I think there's a lot of people with different shares of the blame or influence on this decision or whatever. I don't want to point fingers, but it's not all the ownership,
Mm-hmm. And I think we had talked about that too at one point, where we're like, if you really want to keep this team around, go to games.
Yeah,
give them a reason to stick around, right? Like, and I understand the stadium is
awful,
bad. It's awful, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, as a fan, how much of that do you actually see? Maybe a broken seat,
for sure,
right? Like the old Yankee Stadium was not.
Oh, it's terrible.
Was not a cathedral, right?
No,
I mean,
it was a cathedral.
as far
Excuse
as
me.
like it was. Well, I
take that back
should
right
say this.
now.
It was a cathedral as far as its significance in baseball, but it was not well maintained. I remember us asking somebody like, "What's it like going to Yankee Stadium?" He's like, "That place is a trash hole. See, there's like leaky pipes above you and everything like that." He's like, "It's not nice,"
So on the
people still went.
On the new Yankee Stadium, I did the tour, and they kept a section of the old Yankee Stadium design features and elements so that they could say, okay, this is what it was like. And you're on the concourse and you're going through these really narrow, very dark cinder block, thing with the exposed piping and everything. And that I was like, oh, this is what it was like. And so, in the bowels, it was garbage.
Yeah. But yeah, like as far as fans go though, like go support your team. If they're threatening to relocate, like I know you don't want to put money in the owner's pocket, but give them a reason to stay.
Yeah.
And that was my issue with the whole thing.
Well, and the impact it had on gameplay. The morale of the team, like there's more to it,
Yeah, there's a lot behind it. A lot goes into it. It's very complicated and very complex.
Nuanced. Yeah,
nuanced. Okay, I'm gonna go with one of my best. I'm gonna go back to the postseason for a minute.
Why you would?
Ketel Marte. I love that dude. I loved him as a Mariner. I will continue to love him as a Diamondback.
Yeah.
His postseason was amazing. And it wasn't just this postseason. It goes back to 2017, his other postseason appearance with the Diamondbacks. Granted, it was only 4 games. But he got a hit in every single one of those games, all 20 of those games, until Game 5 of the World Series when the Rangers just shut the Diamondbacks down.
Yep.
But he had a 20-game postseason hitting streak going.
Yep.
And that is just crazy to me, the fact that this dude just gets up there and just gets on base.
Yep.
That you can't say he didn't show up. You can't say he didn't do his part, because if nobody else is doing their part, at the very least he is. He's giving guys behind him an opportunity.
Yep.
So I thought that was awesome. I thought that was really cool. It was a lot of fun to watch, because it was every day, even if it was like a game that I missed or I was coming in late, it's like, has Marte gotten hit yet? Because it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was something I was keeping an eye on the whole time.
Okay, I'm going to go best, and I'm going to just drop the elephant in the room. Acuna, basically all season, was just phenomenal. But the fact that he established his own tier of excellence at the 40-70 club with 40 home runs and 70 stolen bases, I mean, we may see it again. We may not. Who knows? But we were here for the very first one. We were here. We were watching.
Yes.
It will never be that significant again.
No.
It'll never be as good as the first time in this case. And that's exciting.
That is exciting. Because the next guy, it'll be the only other guy to ever do this is Ronald Acuna Jr. Whereas when he did, it's like nobody's ever done this. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
So I love that. That was a great part of the season.
Okay. I'm gonna go with a worst so I can end with a best.
Yeah. I have a couple. I have 3 worsts, 2 straddle the line, and 2 best left.
Okay, I have 3 best, 3 worst. So I'm gonna go with a worst.
Okay.
One of my worsts was Jerry DiPoto's end of season press conference.
Oh man.
And
Yeah.
like looking back and his like clarification of things that he said, it's like, okay, like I get it, but you shouldn't have to clarify the things you say
Right.
2 days later.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things too, when he made the 54% of your games over 10 years, like I was kind of like, okay, I can see like, because you're gonna have down years, you're gonna have up years, right? You're gonna have the years, because I understanding how averages work, Brig,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I can see, like, I kind of understood what he meant, but when people are like, he only wants to win 54% of his games, you're not going to make the playoffs winning 54% of your games. I was like, you're right. And then I was like angry because
Mhm.
people were misconstruing everything. But at the time, I think the comment that really rubbed me the wrong way when he said that our fans should be thanking us because you can get stuck in the mud trying to win a World Series every year. Like that
That's
was the comment that I was
the
like,
worst one.
I'm not going to thank you for anything. Like, honestly, I will not thank you until you sign Shohei Ohtani. And then I
Right.
might, because be like, you kind of maybe tied too much money up in him, so you don't have money to go around, or maybe you didn't give him enough money, so he's a little bit disgruntled. He's going to request a trade in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Don't do that.
yeah, so I'm not going to thank him for anything, especially not trying to win a World Series every year, because that's the goal
That's the goal.
in a franchise that
There
has
is no
never
other
even been to
goal.
the World Series.
Yeah.
That should be the goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was ugly, and I'm still a little bit bugged by it. In case you didn't notice.
I feel you. I'm going to stay on the worst as well. I have a couple left. Alex Cobb losing his no-hitter on the last out in San Francisco in the City Connect uniform on a
Oh yeah.
bloop single. Like it just, man, I was in bed. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning by then. I'd been staring at my phone for hours. I don't know. I was like, I'm still sad about it. And I'm not a Giants fan, but as a
Right.
baseball fan, to lose it on the final out after an incredible, he still pitched a complete game, got the out, but
Yeah.
it was just, I've always liked Alex Cobb. I think he does a great job. For the last couple of years, he's been really, really great. And I was like, man, like he deserves it. And 1 out, man, dude, that was rough. I'm still
Yeah,
upset.
that is rough. And yeah, I hate it when guys lose a no-no on the last out. It's
On a
crazy.
bloop single. It
Yeah.
was such a dumper. Like it was such a cheap hit. Like it didn't matter.
Hey,
Oh,
that's a line drive in the books, Brig.
I know, but I'm still, oh man, I just can't accept it. I can't. Okay,
Okay, for
whatever.
one of my last few bests here, I'm gonna actually go back to the Diamondbacks. I'm talking about Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember at the beginning of the season, we were talking about how the D-backs gave him the biggest contract for anybody who hit with fewer than 100 days of service time.
Service time. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, he earned it.
We done did saw.
Yeah, we done did saw. You're
I
right.
synced it.
And getting to see it in person, Brig, is a
Yeah.
completely different animal.
I'll bet. That's really
Like
cool.
I will never forget the first time I saw him chase down a fly ball in right field, and I was like, I don't think anybody else on this team can catch that.
No
Knowing
way.
what I
That
know
dude,
now about Alec Thomas, probably, but
maybe so. But that
but
dude's
I
fast.
legitimately don't think anybody else, like most outfielders in the league, could not have caught that ball.
Yeah, he's crazy fast. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to jump all over this because that piggyback off on one of mine. Let's just talk about the rookies this season, right? Like the
Yes.
rookies this year. I feel like this
Excellent
year's
rookie
rookie
play.
class was unbelievable. You have the Milwaukee's Terang, Gunnar Henderson, Ellie De La Cruz, Sal Frelick, Davis Schneider, Corbin Carroll, Jason Dominguez, Estuary Ruiz. It was just a star-studded, and there are more, but it was a star-studded unbelievable rookie class. And I hope they all stay healthy. I hope they all continue to just grow and improve. And you can have a down year or whatever here and there, but
Right.
just keep getting better, because this is great news for what baseball is going to bring to the table over the next 5 to 10. Like, it's
It is,
great news.
and it's really crazy because, like, you have classes like this, right? Where you have groups of guys, you have groups of really good guys, and it's like, man, I just don't see that next group of guys that's like Acuna, Albies, and like their peers and stuff like
Yeah.
that, you know. But
Yeah.
like, I think we found it.
Yeah. This year
Like,
we
you'll
did.
have guys peppered in like Julio, you know,
Mhm.
but like, I think this is the next group of guys who we're
Yeah.
going to be following through, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I love it, dude. And there, yeah, I could just go on and on, but it was fabulous. Okay.
That is.
How many do you have left?
I have 2 of each left.
Okay. I have 2 worst, 1 best, and 2 that straddle the line. Can I go again really quick with a
Yeah,
straddle?
go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Domingo Herman. This
Oof.
straddles the line for me because he was tossed at one point in the season for illegal substance, and they pulled him out of the game. There was some crap on his pants. I don't know what it was. Nobody knows what it was, but it was a bad look, and you don't want to get called out on that, obviously. And then he had plenty of horrible outings, just horrible.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, whoa, dude, like, what is going on? And this is where it gets really complicated, because then somehow in the middle of the season, for absolutely no reason whatsoever, he tosses a perfect game. He became the 24th player in Major League Baseball history to throw a perfect game. And I don't want to take anything away from that. I don't want to, but I feel like I must. And even though I'm a Yankees fan, and even though it's exciting and I got it, I'm still uncertain about it, because it was in Oakland during an Oakland, like, the worst season of their franchise in a very long time. So of all the teams, it was in Oakland. There was nobody in the stands, so there was not a lot to contend with
It was almost
crowd
like, did it even
noise.
happen?
Exactly. And then it was swept under the rug, and nobody cares anymore. Nobody's remembering it. They're not calling attention to it after the season has ended. Really, it's not
Well,
like a
and
highlight anybody cares about.
because Brig, wasn't he suspended for the rest of the year
Yeah.
for domestic violence?
Yeah. I was just going to get to that.
Like, that's the thing, is that, like, I remember when it happened, kind of in like one of our text feeds. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like, "Wow, couldn't have been a nicer guy." Laced heavily with sarcasm.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, is that, like, and I think we talked about this too, was um does Major League Baseball want a guy like this throwing a perfect game?
Exactly.
No. They
No.
certainly do not.
No. Anyway, it's one of those that we'll say over the years, we'll be like, oh yeah, there are 24,
Yeah.
because we've been saying 23 for so long. And then
Mhm.
what's going to happen is we're going to go, oh yeah, oh, he did throw a perfect game in 2023. That's right. But
Yeah.
nobody cares. No, I don't want
Right.
to count
Well,
that
and
way.
that was the thing. Our friend Jewel, he's like, I really hate that he's the one to throw a perfect game, the first one to throw a perfect game since Felix Hernandez.
Yeah, it's
That
just,
he's the one that now we can't talk about Felix being the last one.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, I agree.
Yeah.
So that's one that straddles the line for me. There's a lot of complication and a lot of nuance, and it sucks that it has to be that way.
Would that be a worst best or a best worst?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Anyway. All right. I'm going to stick with the Yankees for just a minute. Oh, no. Sorry. I'm not. I'm going to go with the worst, actually,
Okay.
because I want to end with the best.
Okay.
Umpires.
Oh,
I feel like umpires were exceptionally bad this year. And I
yeah.
feel like I kept saying all throughout the year, they're not making their case to not bring in the automated strike zone.
Yeah.
Like, they really are not making a case for job security,
No.
because I don't trust them. No. And I know the box on the TV is limited because it's two-dimensional and we're not seeing stuff catch the back of the plate. But really, though, we get a general idea, general consensus of what's going on, and there have been some really, really, really horrendous calls. And it's almost worse when you get a call down the middle, like a ball down the middle, and they call it a ball. And it's like,
huh?
This box can depict that.
If you miss a backdoor strike that paints the corner every once in a while, okay, it's like we as fans can say, all right, that would have been tough to call. But when it's just a meatball,
yeah, and
it's right there,
and then you get to see the inconsistency because it's like, okay, I get the case of calling a strike off the plate a ball, or like on the corner of the plate a ball because it looks like it might be going that way,
yeah,
or like like you said, like a backdoor curveball,
yeah,
like catches the plate, we call it a ball. Yeah. Okay, that's fine, but when you have a backdoor curve or backdoor slider that catches the plate, you call it a ball, and then 3 pitches, 3 innings, whatever, 3 batters later, you call it a strike.
That's it.
That's the issue, is we're seeing incredible inconsistency. We're seeing strikes called balls, and in big moments too. That the umpire scorecard, it shows, whatever calls like potentially added however many runs to one team.
Sure.
We can see exactly the impact that some of these missed calls are having, and it's absurd. It's getting really bad.
It is.
And I'm ready for the automated strike zone.
I got to take a note here. I just had a thought. I want to bring it up in this episode, but I'm going to bring it up in a future episode because I just pattern recognition.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'm going to go with a couple more. I only have one best left, so let me go with the worst. Jordan Walker being sent down back to the minors, and the St. Louis organization not showing enough faith in him and letting him ride it out. That sucked. Like that just sucked.
That did
for
suck.
Everybody, but especially for him and especially for St. Louis and the fan base and all that. Like, come on, man.
Well,
come on.
The thing that's crazy is you're selling this guy as like the future of the franchise, right? Yeah. Going into the season, you're like, well, maybe not. They didn't send him down. Yeah, no, you got to give a guy a chance to, because like the Yankees easily could have sent down Anthony Volpe at the beginning of the season.
Totally.
But they didn't. They rode with him because they had faith in him.
Yeah, and now he won a Gold Glove.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Jordan Walker could have easily been in that category.
Yeah.
Let him work it out. Wolf.
Yeah.
How many do you have left? Do you have another worst?
2 best, 1 worst.
Okay, hit me with one of your best then.
I will. We are 1 step closer to expansion.
Yes!
That is one of my favorite things.
I agree.
Because we were told last year, when we had David Sampson on the show, he said, you got to sort out the A's stadium situation. You got to sort out the Rays stadium situation. Well, the A's are pretty well sorted out, moving to Vegas. They've got to build their stadium still, but it's in the works. And now
the owners voted unanimously to make the change for the transition.
Yeah.
So it's a done deal now.
It's a done deal. They're moving. So
now
that one's done.
Facility.
The Rays appear to have a new stadium situation figured out.
Yeah.
Tentatively, I think.
Yeah.
But they're moving in the right direction. We are really, really close to expansion, Brig. And I am so very excited.
Me too.
A little bit scared, but very excited.
Same. I have exactly. Yes. Oh, I'm nervous. Because when the two new teams show up, Major League Baseball is going to use it as a vehicle to make other changes, and that's what I'm interested to see what happens. And we'll talk about
I'm really worried about pitching getting watered down. That's my big thing. Is the bullpens are. It's hard to put together a good bullpen now, and it's going to be even harder with 2 more teams.
They are going to make that. They are going to make changes to address that. They have to.
They're going to have to, for sure.
They're going to have to. Okay, my last worst is really simple. It's just the Mets. Like, the whole season, I'm confused. My feelings are hurt. I have no dog in the fight. It still bugs me. Knock it off. Just be better. Okay.
Simply put, be better. Okay. Speaking of being better, go ahead.
Okay, you have a worst, right? Okay.
Yeah,
go.
I have one more worst. Okay,
Yeah,
speaking of being
go.
better, the Mariners were incredibly disappointing this season.
Yes, they were.
I was joking with a buddy at work the other day because he's a Bills fan, a Buffalo Bills fan, and after they lost that game on Monday night, I was like, "Hey, I get it," and he gets it. He's a Mets fan,
Yeah.
and so
Oh, yeah.
I was like, in August, it was like I text my friend Jen after the game, like that was awful. And she's like, "Yeah, I hate this team."
Yeah.
Same time again tomorrow night. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll see you
You know?
there. All right, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And it was incredibly disappointing. I've been saying since 2019, this is the year the team is going to win the World Series. I do think I had a caveat. I think I said if Kyle Lewis, Jared Kelnick, and Julio Rodriguez are all in the outfield together, then they will. And I think that if you had a healthy Kyle Lewis this year,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that would have been a huge difference maker.
Yeah.
But Kyle Lewis is not only not healthy, but he's not in Seattle anymore, and he's not even in Arizona anymore since
Yeah.
he was non-tendered. And so,
Yeah.
um, but still, though, there was a ton of talent on that team that just did not play the first half of the season. And it was incredibly disappointing as a Mariners fan. And it was probably incredibly disappointing for a lot of people across the league who wanted to see the Mariners finally do something because they had a talented roster.
That was me. I fit that group.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's really sad, honestly.
it was.
All right, one of them that straddles the line for me is down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson.
I think your other one was a worst best. I think this is a best worst.
Yeah, for sure. Because this was so fun. It was so exciting. It was such an incredible punch thrown. And also, it's really not a good look for baseball. We don't want the kids to see this kind of thing happening. But the call was amazing. The way it played out, the fact that the benches cleared and then they broke up and then they got back together and started shit with Grafal coming in and just throwing hands and that being mouthy. And I just was like, this is amazing. This is terrible, but it's also incredible.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I would describe it. And I was a little bit bugged at the way that like everybody embraced Jose Ramirez after, and I felt really bad for Tim Anderson too because like I don't care like if it's like the fake tough guy thing or whatever, like I don't care about that. The thing that I care about is that I feel like it was just like such a bad mark on such a bad season for a good player,
Yeah, I
you know.
agree.
But
Yep.
you know, the call was fantastic though. And I think we talked about it at the time that a lot. I think that every broadcaster keeps that in their back pocket and just can't wait to use it.
Just down goes Frazier. They
Yeah,
just want to be like down goes Frazier.
yeah,
It's too good, man. It's
yep.
too good. All right. I have a
Okay,
best left. You have a best left. This is a great way to end.
I cannot believe I'm ending with this one, but this is just the way it's going to shake out. My last best is a guy who I'm not particularly a fan of, not particularly a fan of the team that he's on, although I do cheer for them, find myself cheering for them more because you are a fan of this team, Brig. Garrett Cole finally won a Cy Young.
Finally. I agree.
Finally.
Mm-hmm.
He has been a top 5 finisher 4 times other than this year.
Yep.
And when I was looking at this, I was actually a little bit surprised that he was 11th in MVP voting this year.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like, and this is the thing I told you before, this is what I was saving. I feel like that's an appropriate finish for him because on a team that underachieves, I don't feel like you can give the MVP to a guy who's like the best player on that team, right?
It's hard.
It's really hard to, especially only a guy who only goes out there once every 5 days. And so, but no, like Garrett Cole, the fact that he's been so dominant for so much of his career,
Yeah.
throw out the sticky stuff where he's like, I have to have it. It's like, I don't care. Everybody
No,
else
it's
had to have
over.
it too. But
That's
he's
over.
sorted it out. He's figured out how to pitch without it or
Yep.
figured out a new way to get sticky stuff. I don't know. I don't really care because he has not gotten suspended for it. So whatever, do your thing and go out there and continue to dominate. Let the big dog eat, as they say.
Let the big dog eat. Yeah, that's right.
And good for him finally winning a Cy Young.
I agree. All right, my last one. I loved that Trey Turner got a standing ovation in a slump. For me, this is one of the best moments in baseball this year. Trey Turner, huge slump, cannot figure it out, gets a standing ovation from the Phillies fans, and then hits a 3-run bomb. in the same game. Unbelievable.
In a city that is notoriously hard on its players.
That's right. And the street lamps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it shows the impact that a fan base can have. I mean, we saw, we kind of alluded to this with the Herman Perfecto, right? Nobody in the stands, less to contend
When you talked
with.
about it with Oakland in general.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is the opposite, man. When a team is rallied behind, when the fans care, when they're involved enough to notice what's going on, and when they really want to pull their weight and be that extra player on the field, you can do a lot, man. This is why I still kind of stand by home field advantage. It's just, there's a lot going on with it that can happen. Doesn't always happen, but can.
Yeah.
And this is a wonderful example of that. So bravo, Phillies fans. I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, don't forget to, not only did he hit a 3-run bomb then, but his entire season turned around.
Everything. He still made a couple of defensive errors, but at the plate.
Well, yeah, that's going to happen though, especially his position. But
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, at the plate was completely different after that. Is amazing. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one to end on, Brig.
Oh, you know what I find interesting, over one time, the first time in the history of times that we did not really overlap.
It's true. We didn't.
Not directly. We didn't pick the same one.
Not directly. Yeah.
Whoa, this is a watershed moment, bro.
It is. Because this is, I mean, going into 2024, this is the first time, and I wonder if this is a sign of things to come.
Oh boy. All right, baseball family. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. We are going to be bringing you content throughout the postseason. We're going to talk about winter meetings. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. All the off-season stuff. There's no off-season. There's winter meetings, Brad.
The winter meetings already happened, Brig.
I know. Is this previously recorded? You're right.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, the end.
We'll get to spring training, and it'll be awesome. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. Let us know what you thought was the best and worst of the year. Jump in the mailbag or on social media. Comment down in the YouTube comments, and we'll catch you next week.